right, this is a reading that starts with a poor fig tree that I have great pity for, but it ends with a great deal of truth, I think. As they were walking by early the next day, they saw the fig tree had dried up right from the roots up. And Peter remembered it. He said to Jesus,
Teacher,
look,
look,
the
fig tree
fig
that
tree
you
that you
cursed
cursed
all
is all
dried up.
dried
But
up.
Jesus answered,
Answered,
said to
Jesus
all of them,
answered and said
have
to all of
faith in
them,
God.
have faith in God.
I'm telling you seriously, whoever says this to the mountain, get up and throw yourself into the ocean, and doesn't doubt in their heart, but believes what they say is happening, it will happen for them.
So I'm
so
telling
you,
all the
telling
things
you,
you
things
pray
you pray
all
for
the things
for
you
and ask
pray
and
for,
for
ask
and
for,
ask
believe
for,
that you've
believe
received
that
them,
you
them,
and it
received
will
them,
be
and it will
that
be
way for
that
you.
way for you.
And whenever you're standing there praying, forgive whatever you are holding against somebody.
That
That way, your Father in heaven will forgive your offenses.
Your offenses.
And Tanya, for the announcements.
Thank you, Diane. Good morning. Hopefully you can hear me. I don't have my microphone.
Yes.
Okay, good. It's Sunday, August 18th. And we're looking forward to today's message from Pastor. It is the fourth part of After Empire. So, Jesus Collective is saving space for you, every single one of you. There is space for everybody here to come on Wednesday. So join us this Wednesday. We did meet last Wednesday, but we are going to meet again this Wednesday. Also, we are doing a short meditation exercise, some mindfulness, 10 minutes early if you'd like to log on for that and get yourself centered. Thank you so much for those who support Jesus Collective. It helps to make this happen, and we appreciate every one of your giving. So we are coming up to our annual barbecue coming up this next Sunday. It will be at Tucker's Grove as in our usual spot. I think this will be our third time, so you should be getting pretty good at it. We'll meet at our usual spot for church first, in-person church at 2101 State Street. And then that'll be at 10 o'clock, and then we will head over for the cookout. The hamburgers and the buns and the condiments will be provided. So if you'd like to bring something to drink, something that would go along with the hamburgers, that would be great. Otherwise, just come and bring yourself, and we look forward to a really nice time of fellowship. It's well shaded, so you don't have to worry about being in the sun too much. And if you want to bring a lawn chair, you can, but there are plenty of tables. So anyway, that'll be next Sunday. We do have a couple of links in the chat now from Julie and Clint. We appreciate that. So if you'd like to give through Venmo or through the website, that would be great. Also, if you are not close by and would like to come to church next Sunday anyway, feel free to get on Zoom. We will be having Zoom at 10 o'clock as usual. Here is from our famous Amos, who passed away this week. He said, "Nothing is an obstacle unless you say it is." So look at that face. Sweet. Sweet cookie, sweet face. We will go into small groups now. I don't have any tasks for you today, so just enjoy each other. And then we'll have After Empire Part 4. Remember, we don't pass the plate. We do it through our online giving.
So are we having a time of meditation and contemplation here?
We are having meditation and healing time for sure.
Mm.
Julia is getting better by the minute.
All right. When is the second procedure?
As soon as this one heals up.
Oh, I thought they were gonna do them both at the same
Oh
time.
no, not that.
Oh, well, I know they can.
Some people do it. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, well, you're in so much pain, it's almost like, do it. But she'll be fine.
You know, they at the hospital they do to make sure you can do a little step and all this other stuff. Well, the step they have at the hospital is about 4 inches tall. Real steps are about 9 inches tall. And so when we got home, getting up the stairs was incredibly, it was
Yeah.
almost impossible. She made it, and you know what? I was so worried because that took such effort. And so I'm just grateful
Yeah.
because guess what? That leg is now straight. And that's just something to look forward to because she's going to have both of them that way.
Yeah. She'll do well because she's accustomed to exercising and moving, and she knows the benefit of staying on task. So she will do well. You will do well, my sister, my little baby sister. Oh, yeah. I've taken care of knee patients, so
Yeah.
it's a journey. But just know that the benefits will be best.
Thank you, Miss
Yeah,
Lynn.
even the pain, but take your pain medicine. You know.
I was saying, I feel like my leg was chewed off by a shark, and then they left me in a bowl.
That's about right. Yeah.
Right? I was feeling like my leg was chewed off by a shark. I feel seasick all the time. It's awful. But thank you for your encouragement.
You'll do well. You know,
Thank
you will. But you got to work through it. And take your pain meds. That's what they have in there to help you, so you can move that knee.
Mhm.
You got a good helper. You have two good helpers there.
Yeah, it makes me feel so good because
Yeah.
while I'm at work, Eli is helping out. And Eli is so helpful.
He should.
You know, I'm a drill sergeant when it comes to we're gonna do it this way in the walk, and Eli's the more gentle. But the good thing is between both of us, we love Julia so much. Julia's gonna be well maintained and cared for.
That's right. Oh, put in the chat for me your address because I want to send you something.
All right.
Thank you.
Welcome back. As Cat Stevens sang a moment ago, my people. It's always good to see every single one. And what a week. I mean, Lisa already mentioned that and that it's true for her. And it might apply to your week. But right now I'm talking about the final week of Jesus's crazy, mixed up, one-of-a-kind life. And maybe you're living a crazy, mixed up, one-of-a-kind life. But look at his week and tell me that it's not one of the wildest rides. He starts on Sunday riding into town on a donkey during his people's biggest festival, an event that he first started attending as a boy with his family, except now it's way beyond family. Crowds are shouting their support. You might conclude that it was a moment of pure euphoria for Jesus, But we know that on that same day, he cried over that city. And the week was just getting started. Things were going to get extremely emotional. As he rode into town, he captured the attention of travelers from every region, wondering who he was. And there were some who wondered who he thought he was. Yes, critics were on the scene. Critics seemed determined to go wherever Jesus went, trying to catch him saying something controversial. By midweek, he did something he'd never done, a destructive miracle, if you will. He cursed a fig tree. And if you have a certain image of Jesus, this could throw you, especially, as Diane Fox mentioned, especially if you love trees. Jesus was hungry. There were no figs on the tree. And even though it wasn't even fig season, it seems like he took it out on the tree. And then each day, crowds arrived to see Jesus, but his critics kept showing up too. Nevertheless, Jesus remained focused and kept sharing stories that people just loved. But not just stories. What infuriated his critics was how he talked about the temple, the centerpiece of the city, how this temple was headed for elimination. The temple was the centerpiece of the city, a city that was the centerpiece of their existence. This temple sat atop the hill that provided the backdrop for each of Jesus's conversations that week. This was their Athens, their 7 hills of Rome, their Capitol Hill. In this storied location, after a couple of days, Jesus's friends are surprised when they notice that the fig tree had withered from the roots. While they stand there astonished, Jesus is challenging them. He challenges them to embrace being surprised, to expect that the unexpected can happen. So if you're feeling like you're living a crazy, mixed up, one-of-a-kind life, I urge you to take these next words to heart. Have faith in God. It's what Jesus told his friends. I quote, I'm telling you seriously, whoever says to this mountain, get up and throw yourself into the ocean and doesn't doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say is happening, it will happen for them. So I'm telling you, all the things that you pray for and ask for, believe that you've received them, and it will be that way for you. And whenever you're standing there praying, forgive whatever you are holding against somebody. That way, your Father in heaven will forgive your offenses. We just saw Jesus use the end of the fig tree as an illustration of the end of the mountain. So we have to ask, if Jesus could dispense with the fig tree so easily, why didn't he just go ahead and terminate the mountain himself? And that's my question for the moment. The fig tree dried at the roots. There are lessons about the mountain's roots as well. To this city, this mountain, this temple. Roots called Herod's temple, also referred to as the Second Temple because it had been destroyed earlier in history. It took decades to build this temple again. And at its peak, the construction project provided as many as 20,000 jobs. But it was brutal work. And after Herod died in 4 BCE, the people who had been suppressed by his brutality, by Herod's brutality, were finally able to release their built-up frustrations. Many folks had been impoverished due to Herod's high taxes and excessive spending. But Herod's demise led to the halt of his building projects, which had previously provided so many job opportunities. And now there was widespread unemployment. Folks were angry, but they still held on to a fabled past. Jesus tried to show them that things were collapsing and to look for something better. But their point of view was that temple employment had been good work. Sure, we were treated like dirt, but the system takes care of us. Just like now. people serve in the military or teach middle school, or they're mail carriers or wardens in prisons, or they're in law enforcement or in public office, or maybe they just simply mop the floors at a restaurant that feeds the government contractors that are getting rich. We depend on the fig tree. But what about the mountain? And why didn't Jesus just make the mountain disappear if he could so quickly get rid of the fig tree from the roots? I think the answer may have something to do with roots. Within Judaism, you don't hear the term Old Testament. For them, it was their origin story, their roots. And now, here's the thing about origin stories. They are enchanted. Think of Superman's origin story, or Batman, or Iron Man, or Aquaman. More and more people today are doing ancestry searches, searching for, if not a superhero, at least a hero. Well, Jesus demythologized his people's story. His people had collectively become history's main protagonists. And let's be clear, everybody does it. Everybody has foundation stories, even if we've been cut off from our stories. Think about it. Greek mythology, Norse mythology, Chinese, Japanese, Roman, Egyptian. Our mythologies give us meaning and justify our existence. They set a standard for what it means to be human, to be lovely, and protective of the weak and defenseless. But the heroic parts of our origin stories can make us self-important and grow a sense of cultural superiority. We may know that our origin stories are untrue or partly true, but they provide the roots of our sense of identity. We are grounded sometimes in a false ancestry, but we may settle for false ancestry because the false identity pretends to embrace us, to love us, pretends to take care of us. So we send young people off to distant lands to fight and maybe die for this false identity that pretends to love us. We will watch the fig tree die, but what about the mountain? I have personally settled for figs. I have settled so that I could survive. In fact, the people who have the most to gain with the removal of the mountain are the most consumed by the struggle for survival. So, for example, while I identify and point out the immorality of some of the Obama administration's policies, still, I know that it's unlikely that Diane and I would be living here without his administration's mortgage relief program. And you would be shocked to know how much I was paying for health insurance before Obamacare. So we need to hold space for and not withhold compassion from people in power we are pressing for change, because we don't always know what they are resisting. So we need to keep pushing them while still loving them. Yeah, we can post to their Instagram pictures of fig trees that used to exist, just to remind them. I know that my integrity is tied to my resistance. We live in dissonance. Dissonance occurs when musical notes clash. Martin Luther King wrote, "I must honestly say that there are some things in our nation and the world to which I am proud to be maladjusted, and wish all men of goodwill would be maladjusted until the good society is realized." So I make every effort to live in cosmic alignment in the dissonance. Dissonance is discordance. We live in discord. The space that you are occupying is supposed to feel awkward. We are supposed to feel uncomfortable. We often may complain about how tired we are, how exhausted we are. We regard tiredness so highly that we're mad at people who have energy and joy. But just maybe, Just maybe what's causing your discomfort is the recognition that after all this time, the story that we've been given, the story that's behind our collective unconscious still makes no sense. The story is just not true. So, how is it that we aspire to our incredible lightness of being with joy that the world can't take away? Well, we flourish when we demythologize our story, when we clear the ground of our false identity, our false self, our false nationality, and ethically questionable religious practices, to inspire you to look beyond the fig tree of personal inconvenience. Figs are good for satisfying momentary hunger. And I know maybe you get hangry. Just for a moment, though, please stop thinking about figs and look at the mountain. Raise your vibration before your emotions hijack you. Your crazy, mixed up, one of a kind life wants you distracted, but you need to be still and know that God is. The God in your voice is enough to move the mountain. Well, most people are settling for figs. Most people, if there are no figs, will settle for waiting until fig season arrives. And of course, we are thankful for even the smallest of blessings. We need small blessings, but we need to remember that it's still just figs. Most folks lack the imagination to move the mountain. They pray for more figs when what they need is the kind of wholesale change that only manifests with mountain removal. People settle for myths because they fear what won't be left when we uproot the foundational lies. I'll have another helping of that propaganda, please. Tastes so good. Can I get your recipe? But this morning, I'm happy to be around people who talk to mountains. You're not afraid of how different the landscape will soon look. Yeah, other folks are terrified. Instead of commanding the mountain to relocate itself, they sing love songs to the mountain. Mountain, how am I supposed to live without you? Yeah. They only see what could go wrong if we don't have our mountain. They catastrophize. They fear the worst based on two things. One, false history, and two, what the critics keep saying, but not you. Yes, your critics are trying to tell you who you are, including the voice of your inner critic, but your soul is undaunted. So today, I thank you for dreaming. I thank you for refusing to let hope slip your grasp. More than just wishful thinking, hope is repeatedly finding the strength to take action when it feels like your action is weak. And all of this is why I'm not asking God. Oh, you better believe I'm asking God to help me and to help you find that strength. But I'm asking you to move the mountain. Use your voice against the mountain of social conditioning, of social engineering, the citadel of nothingness, an illusion that supports pseudo-ancientness, a mountain that institutionalizes a dishonest narrative. But it trembles under the scrutiny of study and the relentlessness of research, and it will be toppled by truth. The mountain's removal marks the end of deception and domination, and the end of empires, the rise of a new humanity, the beloved community. You see, the end of empire is the rise of you. The end of empire is the rise of your neighbor. The end of empire is the rise of forests and rivers, the rise of oceans, but in a good way. The end of empire is the rise of tribes, but the fall of tribalism. The end of empire awakens us to ascendant cosmologies. The end of empire means the rise of true morality, not one that accommodates militarism, not designed to fit within political expediency, not economic pragmatism or religious dogmatism, not one that conceals state terrorism and atrocities that independent journalists and all truth tellers, including student protesters, are trying to uncover. Sometimes we need to say, keep your figs. I am interested in everybody finally getting the society they deserve. Most of us don't appreciate. We don't appreciate how fierce the war against humans is that empire and oligarchy wage, and how the poor are frontline pawns. The end of empire spells the breaking of spells, the arousal from the hypnosis of powerlessness. So I charge you today, speak your way into changed scenery. The prophet Isaiah pronounced, every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill brought low. The crooked places shall be made straight, and the rough places smooth. The glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. Amen. Amen. We have confidence.
Hello, and Ana Rosa. I want to hear first from you.
Well, all of it was amazing. It's very exciting to think about the end of Empire. The part that stuck with me the most was when you spoke about the God in your voice. Like, do we all realize that we have God in our voice when we speak? Because maybe if we realize that we are not alone and that we have God in our voice and our ancestors in our voice, then we would speak up more often.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. I think that you had talked about like the false narrative that we believe, and I feel like the media, the world, just even our upbringing often tells us this is what makes you special. This is, all these value judgments that really aren't based in God's value. And I think for those of us maybe who believe that for a really long time, it's like we're blind. We're those, we're burrowing our talents rather than using them. So I'm really as an educator, I feel like that's my number one thing is I want people to see the power in their voice, just like what Lisa, what you started with. And because I don't think we can see God in ourselves, right? Until we quit believing those lies. And I'm really challenged right now as a 60-something-year-old to really feel like, what is the meaning of life? It's not all those things we're striving for. To say that I liked your analogy from part 3 about the upstairs versus the downstairs. It's like we're all striving, right? Everyone, we want to all be upstairs and stuff like that. And I don't know if life is good there, or if it's even real there. That's part of the false narrative, So I am excited for your word, for the challenge, for us to speak the truth that God is saying. Yeah. And to walk in this light, walk in the abundance of his light. Oh, I see Roy has his hand up.
All right.
I didn't mean to break you off there. I was really struck by something that I had never thought about before, David, and it was really helpful for me, and I'm going to chew on it for the next week, I'm sure. That I always pictured that saying of Jesus, remove this mountain, as being, kind of any mountain. If you have enough faith, you can remove a mountain. And it never struck me until you pointed at it that he wasn't necessarily talking about any mountain. He was talking about this mountain. And this mountain had very, very specific imagery around it and very specific meaning and place in society and in culture. And that really, really struck me, that's where we need to be focused. And that's the mountain that it's not just, we can go and reshape the landscape. It's much, much more concrete than that. And I found that really helpful. So thank you.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, I think what sets it off is the contrast is the fig tree first, right? I mean, that's right there an immediate
Can we talk more about what the figs are?
oh, take it away.
No, I'm asking, like, would folks like to contribute? This is a discussion, y'all. It's not just the me and Margie show. And have we been distracted by the figs?
So would you suggest that the figs could be like, Petey, you said about the mortgage, Obama mortgage program and the affordable care and those kind of benefits that can potentially, we benefit from it. And I know that all of us, I mean, things come in a package. Sayuri always tells me things come in a package. And so we could be enamored by these things, and then the system, the overall, the larger macro system is the mountain. So what I think I heard was Jesus could have said, "Hey, mountain, go," but then he I suppose in his mercies say, "I know that there are people that is stuck in the in-between time that will just cause such disruption that will not be good." So in time, people can start speaking against the mountain and, step by step, get the mountain out so that the society that seems to be currently will become kind of thing, instead of just going boom, boom from A to B, just like that. He could have done it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm here. Am I assuming correctly?
Well, that's what I was. I mean, that's what I was asserting, that I know that I have needed the figs, and I think that it's important for us to, while I mean, even if we need the figs, we can't forget about the fact that the mountain is, it is a systemic, it's macro systemic. It is about all of us. It is about everybody. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the system is set up to asphyxiate us. So, I mean, you hear about people like Eric Garner saying, "I can't breathe," while the system is crushing him. I think that we're all, for the most part, when I say all, I'm just talking about people in general, are trying to breathe. And, when you're trying to breathe, there's not much else you can do, but we have to make sure that we keep breathing and keep speaking to the mountains, keep raising our voices. So easy to just like give up.
Yeah, and it takes a community to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
No one person, absolutely, right? No one person can rise up and say, "I'm going to do this on my own." Can't happen, because, we get sidetracked very easily.
Yeah, this right here is a primary community for me. And yet, I'm integrated in other kinds of community, right? Just as you are, we have other folks, not just our biological families, but we may be involved in community. We have to challenge our communities, because if our communities are not giving us energy, if they're not lifting us up in order to be stronger, then we either need to speak to that community or we need to step away from it if it's, draining us.
Michael?
Pastor, thank you. I've told you thank you for many things. I've thanked you for the whole concept of opposing the mountain, and I've thanked you for many of the figs that we rely on to get by in our struggle against the mountain. But several times in probably each of our lives, especially mine, out of nowhere, an epiphany will come up. It'll blow me away. And it's usually in the form of reading or hearing of some particular individual's life. And what I got from their message was, I'm not alone. And thank you today, because for the last, oh gosh, I don't know, as long as I can remember, I've had this inner dialogue going on, labeling myself a hypocrite when I think of how much I resist the mountain, how much I hate the mountain, how much the establishment is something I so want to get rid of. And then I flip back to, but look at this, look at this, look at all these little benefits that you enjoy so much, Michael. And I was just going through a continual cycle of calling myself a hypocrite. Now I get it, and I don't feel alone. Thank you for this scaffold, Pastor.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what, we fortify one another. I know I need it.
Why did you feel like a hypocrite, Michael?
Because as this almost sometimes all-consuming need to spread the truth about the mountain, to oppose it, at the same time, I'm being a teacher in a public school who's gradually deconstructing the national narrative for my students, but really upholding, I'm supposed to uphold this official national narrative, which is based on lies, which is based on colonialism, which is based on trying to put our narrative that we're not colonizers, we're different, we're the chosen people. So all these times I see inconsistencies because when I call myself a hypocrite, I guess I'm saying, why am I not out at every protest? Today in the video, in the music, when the person was standing in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square, that part, I thought, Michael, could you do that? You love this life too much. Could you do that? Would you have the courage? And then there was the scene of the crowds, and I say, there's Michael. He's safely in the middle of that throng of 200,000. He's bold and resisting, with all those other bodies buffering him. That's the kind of hypocrisy that I deal with in myself.
I don't know. I feel like living in a capitalist system, there's absolutely contradictions. There kind of has to be until we actually get rid of capitalism completely. But I feel like we know our hearts and God knows our hearts. And if we are doing our best to stand up in all the moments that we can stand up, then that doesn't really mean hypocrisy to me, like K through 12 system, I have seen, like, not only through my own experience, but especially now mothering my 9-year-old, that it's not a liberatory education for the most part. But we need people like you and other folks who are trying to inject liberation into the education. And so don't lose track of your own power and again, the God in your voice, so that those kids can hear you and hear that there are different ways of understanding and seeing the world and acting upon the world to make change. So I feel like the hypocrisy, like if you just get trapped in that thought, it's debilitating and it doesn't allow you to keep moving against empire.
Right. I realize I just thought of another perfect example, though. I am so for universal health care. I am so for what we've called socialized medicine. And yet I availed myself of a privilege of getting such specialized cancer treatment that wouldn't be available. Just economic couldn't be under universal health care, but I took it. I did it. I had help in financing it. But just the other day, I had my first cataract removal. And for a little bit more money, which thankfully some other people helped us with, I could get the cream of the crop eye care. And in 6 weeks, without glasses, I'll be able, theoretically, to have perfect 20/20 vision. I love that. And yet, realistically, am I enjoying that on the back of somebody who can't even get into a Medi-Cal doctor? That's, you see what I mean? Enjoying some of the luxuries of the capitalist system while just ethically opposing it and being so angry that others are excluded from it.
On the other hand, I don't know how helpful it would be if you didn't avail yourself of what was given to you in a sense, because that was Dr. Kerr, right? Just kind of got you that connection. It wasn't like, you manipulated the system or anything. So
Right.
I don't know how helpful it would have been to not take it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would have stood for the cause of, advancing support for other people either. I kind of feel like, I think that what we like, I love that phrase from Famous Amos, that you used, nothing is an obstacle unless you say it is. I kind of feel like if we keep our focus really on the abundance of God and of his vision and of like how he sees my people as all the earth is my people, the creation are my people in a sense. I feel like if, we get lost off of that, right? I feel like, I don't know, at least I do as one of those people. I feel like, C.S. Lewis had that one story where there's like a little demon that tells people, oh, you're not good enough, and it keeps us down. And I feel like that is a real powerful tool to keep us down. So it's not us really, it's the bigger picture of what he's doing. I think that's the only way we can go forward. David is raising his hand. Dr. David.
Healthcare, I don't think it should be thought of as a zero-sum game. What you get, you're taking from somebody else. Every other advanced economy in the world manages to provide healthcare for all of its citizens. We should too. Supposedly we're the richest. So you may point out some failings of our system, but the thing is, don't feel bad for using the system we have and taking advantage of what it has to offer for you. But what we need are for people to stand up to change the system so that everybody can get that kind of care. And actually, in my experience, and Leslie, my wife, was just saying as well, Medi-Cal actually does a terrific job of that. And I love seeing Medi-Cal patients because the private for-profit health insurance companies just make it as hard as they possibly can to provide benefits. I always say that they love collecting premiums and help paying claims. And in fact, that isn't true of Medi-Cal because they're not trying to make a profit. So, I mean, for me, it's great seeing Medi-Cal patients, and I rejoice when patients of mine tell me they have Medi-Cal, because a lot of times it means I can get them the treatments they need without having to jump through hoops and fight with an insurance company.
I mean, I would say another thing that I feel like is kind of invading our conversation is binary thinking. Like, in order for us to have something, somebody else has to lose it. That's what capitalism has taught us.
Yes.
But if we actually think about abundance and what God gives, then we can all have it, as long as like we love each other and treat each other with the dignity and respect that we deserve.
Amen.
Onerosa, that's the fundamental thing that Father Richard Rohr woke me up with, was it's not either or, it's both and.
Well, yeah, and if you think of 32 of the 33 developed nations have healthcare, universal healthcare. So it's not so complicated as they make us think it is. And we're, the one that's missing is us. So we are far behind the rest of the world.
Ana
As
Rosa,
we
you
are
said
incarceration rates. Think about that.
Ana Rosa, you mentioned you pointed at the the zero sum game thinking, and how for one to have another doesn't have, and I would just go ahead and say capitalism also makes it clear that in order for one to live, another one has to die. And so that's where the healthcare argument is so important, central to all of this.
Diane? You're on mute, I think. We can't hear you.
This takes it away towards global history, but there is a book that has been fantastic that I just happened to be reading that seems to be quite relevant here. How to Hide an Empire, a history of the greater United States, which talks about all the colonies that we have had and goes into the history of those colonies and how little we know about that. Anyway, it's a great book for anybody who wants to engage on that level.
Author?
Daniel Immerwahr, Immerwahr.
Well, Margie Ana Rosa, do you have anything else? All right. Well, Roy's going to lead us in communion, and just before that, let me just, when I'm preaching, I've got different notes, and I don't use all of them, and some of them just jump in my head, extemporaneously. And so I didn't know if I should read this one because, now I know pretty sure I should read it because of how this conversation has moved towards healthcare. This is a quote that I just became aware of. My neighbor down the street, Butch Ware, we saw each other Thursday, and he stopped his car and he said, you can't tell anybody, but Jill Stein is going to appoint me to be her running mate, vice president running mate. He's a history prof at UC Santa Barbara. And so I went to the online rally the next day, which would have been Friday. And I waited for, I have not done I know Ana Rosa has, but I haven't done I don't have a lot of exposure to the Green Party, but I attended the rally online. There was so much that made so much sense, I have to tell you, first of all. But I waited until she announced my neighbor as her running mate. And then I posted it on Facebook. And all these new people started liking it. People that, I'm not Facebook friends with, they started liking. And then all of a sudden I got a message from Facebook that they took down my post, suggesting that it wasn't accurate. And I was like, what? How do you know where he lives? And how do you, and I just heard her say that this is her, nominee anyway. So I wasn't going to read this because I didn't want to make it an endorsement or anything, but it just rang so true what she said. Some of you know that Jill Stein is a retired medical doctor. And she said, most of my patients' problems did not stem from lifestyle choices or even their family medical history. It is the toxic combination of corporate greed and political corruption poisoning our planet and our people while forcing all of us into the unsustainable grind of capitalism. And that's why she moved from medicine to politics. But anyway, that just to me underscores what, this conversation around medical care that basically I think started with Michael, but then Dr. Dave and others have weighed in. Our physical health. Okay, so I'm going to stop. Roy, it's your turn. Thank you, Margie and Ana Rosa.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks.
As we're all sharing things here, I'm going to share a book that I'm reading right now as well. The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory by Tim Alberta. It's a discussion of how the white evangelical church has sold its soul for power. It's worth a peruse. Oh,
Roy, I'm going to jump in since everybody's recommending books. Only because in about 3 weeks, we're going to be hosting Brian McLaren, whose most recent book is Life After Doom. And so if anybody wants to, familiarize yourself with that book, just know that that's what he's going to be talking about. All right. Thank you. Sorry for the interrupt.
I'm struck this morning of how radically counterculture we are called to be. And Michael, how difficult it is for those of us who are closer and closer to the center of that culture to embrace that. I have all of the same issues you have. And as we take communion, as we share broken bread and poured out cup, how much more graphic an image of this counterculture we could find. Jesus said, "This bread is my body," and he broke it. He broke it. And he said, "Broken for you." What in the world do you mean, broken for me? Well, I give myself for you. And he calls us to give ourselves, not only for those around us, but for the entire creation. And so we break bread as a symbol of our own brokenness, but a reminder that in that brokenness, we experience the very grace of God. Take the bread and eat. After supper, Jesus took the cup and he said, "This cup is my lifeblood poured out for you." And we are called to pour out our very lives for God's beloved creation, for all of the people in it, those whom we easily call our siblings and those who make us shudder to the core of everything we are. And not only for those bipeds, but for all of creation. So take the cup and drink it as a reminder of what we are called to do and be. Let's pray. We thank you, our God, that though we are often imperfect mirrors of your grace and your love, that you speak the word and make us whole, that you speak the word and say, yeah, but even in your imperfections, your brokenness, your fallenness, you are enough. That even when we look around and feel like all we want to see is the horror around us, that you remind us, yeah, but open your eyes a little wider and see the wonder and the beauty. And know that I am still at work. Thank you, our God, for all of this. And that as we speak, you speak through us, if we but allow you. And the mountain will come down. Amen.